Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Cheryl Garrison, Director of Talent and Workforce Solutions at the Greenville Chamber. October is a time to celebrate manufacturing across the country. For many years, the Chamber has hosted manufacturing celebration. For the past 3 years, the Chamber, Greenville County Schools, and Greenville Technical College have partnered with manufacturers to provide in-person tours for more than 900 students as part of Manufacturing Day. Due to COVID concerns, we have shifted to a digital engagement strategy, which will showcase careers in the most advanced high-tech sector in the country, highlight and honor our local manufacturers, create digital content that has longevity and that will reach beyond students to parents. The Chamber is hosting 4 Manufacturing Matters webinars in October that will also be saved on the Chamber's Launch Greenville internship platform. These webinars focus on career pathways in manufacturing and how students and young adults can access those opportunities. We hope the Chamber investors who are tuning in and other attendees will share the videos with their family members, students, and others potentially interested in manufacturing careers. We have just a little bit of housekeeping to do. All attendees should be on mute with cameras turned off. Please submit questions through the chat feature. We have a lot to talk about today, but if there is time at the end, we do want to make this as interactive as possible of a discussion. We have some sponsors with us today. Manufacturing Matters is sponsored by several organizations. Our gold sponsor is GSA Business and the 2020 South Carolina Manufacturing Conference and Expo, which is being held virtually this year, October 29th through 30th. We will place a link in the chat for you to find more information. Greenville Technical College is one of our 2 presenting sponsors. We will have them on during our final Manufacturing Matters webinar. Our presenting sponsor for this series is Recruiting Solutions. We are pleased to have with us today Cam Varner, President of Recruiting Solutions. Cam, we appreciate your long-term support of our manufacturing celebration, and we appreciate you making the transition with us as we go virtual this year. Before we dive into our speakers today, tell us a bit about Recruiting Solutions and what you are seeing in the market.
Hey, good morning, Cheryl. And first off, thank you to Cheryl, Hank, and the Greenville Chamber for all the work you guys have done to help make the upstate boom. And that's what's happening up there now. And it's good. It's good for everyone that lives there. It's good for all the businesses. So thank you guys for the work that you do. And like Cheryl said, I'm the president of Recruiting Solutions. I'm actually also the president of Varner Resources, which is the parent company to Recruiting Solutions, and also Virtual BOA, which is an outsourced HR group here in Columbia. It's actually one of the top 10 largest businesses in Columbia. And so a little bit about us. We've been in business since 1992. My father and my mother started the company then. So we're in our 29th year. And we're proud to say that this is our 29th year of consecutive top line growth, including tripling our business within the last 12 months. We're fortunate to be recognized this year as one of 3 staffing agencies in the state, recognized as Forbes as one of the top 100 providers in the world. And we have 6 years straight of being recognized by the state chamber as the best place to work in South Carolina. And I say all that, but when I think back to when I was a high schooler, and when I thought about staffing, and despite the fact that my family was in the industry, I didn't know much about it. But it is a major industry in our state to the tune of $2 billion a year. And it's very important to the state. It's very important to manufacturing. And to your comments on the marketplace and what we're seeing, we are seeing the market bounce back strong from Q2. And so the upstate has been specifically strong in manufacturing as well. So had 2 meetings yesterday with large manufacturers in the Greenville area, both of which are running full steam. And the biggest problem that they have is the lack of talent and trying to make up for lost time due to COVID. And they need more talent there. So my message to the high schoolers on there today, or on here today, would be that the skills gap in manufacturing is real, and you would be foolish not to take and consider manufacturing as a career path. So maybe your dad's an accountant, your mom's a doctor, and you haven't been exposed to that industry, but it's a very important one but it's not going away. And if you were to take and look into it, Ryan, we'll talk later about some of the opportunities at AFL with apprenticeships, internships, but I would encourage each and every one of you to take advantage of opportunities like that, even if it's for one summer, but just get exposure, because if you were to take and go into that sector, the opportunities are going to be limitless for you. And thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, Cam. This morning, we are joined by Ryan Burns, Director of HR for AFL in Duncan, South Carolina, and by a group of his teammates from AFL, from whom we will hear later. Ryan has 22 years of comprehensive HR experience in the upstate across several different industries. Good morning, Ryan. Ryan, AFL has had a long-time presence in the upstate region, but for those who may not be familiar with the company, I believe you have some slides for us today.
Yes, ma'am, we sure do. And Cheryl, before we kind of get started, just want to take a few seconds to thank, Hank and yourself and the team there at the Greenville Chamber for allowing us to participate in this series, especially around manufacturing and the growth and what AFL contributes to our local market, and certainly to CAM and Recruiting Solutions and the other sponsors, for this series. It's really great for us when we have the opportunity to talk a little bit about AFL, and we'll take every opportunity we get to, because we feel like we've got a really good thing going, and been in the area over 35 years, and so it's just great to have the opportunity to discuss AFL, and I think one reason why opportunities like this are important for us. And Hank, I'll let you go ahead and go to the next slide, is because if you look at who AFL is, we are a B2B organization, business to business, not a business to consumer organization. And so a lot of folks don't know who AFL is. And so, opportunities like this to talk about AFL and to tell everyone about the cool opportunities, not only from a career standpoint, but just the technologies that we help engineer and manufacture. It's great to tell our story. As I mentioned, over 35 years in existence, located right here in Duncan, South Carolina. We have over 1,000 folks just right here in Duncan. We average revenue every year over $1 billion worth of fiber optics products and services. We're in I think we sell products in over 120 different countries across the world, 25 different languages spoken. But again, it all comes back to one unified team, one group of folks that are here representing AFL with those products and services. And if you think about, globally what that means, as you look, at AFL being a portion of a much bigger global entity, our parent company, as we go to the next slide, will kind of show a little bit we're just not who we are as AFL locally and across the globe, but who we are as an entire entity. We're owned and operated by the Fujikura Group. So although AFL is 35 years in existence, the Fujikura company is over 130 years. We've got 5,000 global employees. Fujikura has almost 60,000. So, we have the resources and the foundation of a huge long-term global operation, and we specialize in the telecom and the power and automotive and electronic areas and industries. So again, it's great to be a leader in the small industry that we're in as AFL, but it's also great to have the resources of a global powerhouse like Fujikura to be able to help support our growth and to be able to help support the things that we do day to day. If you kind of look at our footprint, kind of where we are across the globe, you can see how we exist. AFL exists not only in North America, but we're also in Europe. We're also in Asia. We're also in Australia. But if you go back to kind of that global capacity, Fujikura as a whole has operations pretty much all over the globe, right? North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia as well. So again, many folks don't know about us, and that's okay. We like to say we're one of the best hidden kept secrets here in the upstate. With like I said, over 1,000 folks, over 8 different facilities here in Duncan alone, not to mention across the U.S. and the globe. So as we talk a little bit more kind of about what AFL is and what we actually do, that's probably what a lot of folks are saying, okay, well, I understand fiber optic solutions, but what does that mean? I mean, we kind of cover from soup to nuts if you think about the world of telecommunications, all the way from, you know, the conductor side and the electrical side and infrastructure side of the transmission and distribution of electricity and data, all the way to the cables themselves, right, that are actually sending the data, sending information to the connectivity of when that data gets to a certain location, whether that be a building, a skyscraper, a home, a school, again, wherever the data is being sent, and then even to the equipment that we're using to fuse and splice and test all the different cable and all the connectivity that is being sent, or that is at the end of each one of the cables at a data center or at a school, at a bank, at a hospital. And then we add in the services piece to what we do, right? So it's the installation, the repair, and the connectivity work that our services piece of the business manages and oversees every day. So we really kind of cover that end-to-end solution from a data transmission and from a fiber connectivity standpoint. So, you know, there's a lot of specifics we could go into about all the cool products we make, but you know, I'm sure that's not what everybody wants to hear about today. Because we've got some good dialogue to share a little bit later. But I thought it was important to kind of show you a little bit from an end-to-end standpoint of who we are and what we do. If you think about why, that's kind of who we are and that's what we make. If you think of why AFL, we do provide kind of that full service, comprehensive, you know, telecommunications fiber service. You know, solution to our potential customers. We have anything from cables that can have a single fiber in it to cables that can have close to 7,000 fibers in one cable. I mean, you think about the capacity and the potential of what a cable like that could provide. It's just kind of mind blowing if you think about the amount of data that can be sent at one time. You know, kind of some unique things. We do over 44 million fiber terminations per year, and kind of growing through our services group. You know, we're in the optical infrastructure in every way, from a city to a town, all the way to the rural and the urban areas, all the way to your home. So you know, it's unbelievable if you think about the kind of the full spectrum of what we can provide from our services with those over 5,000 folks across the globe, engineering, manufacturing, and providing the service work for who AFL and what we do. You know, even if you think about those products, a lot of folks still say, but I don't understand, right? I can't buy AFL's products at Target or Lowe's or Home Depot. You know, I'm not buying your cable. I've never seen your name anywhere. And that kind of goes back a little bit to that, you know, kind of business to business model versus business to individual retail consumer customers. You know, just wanted to kind of just show you an idea of the kind of the major market sectors that we service, whether that be the enterprise and hyperscale side of the world or the service provider, you know, energy and industrial, and kind of what does that mean when you think about that from who some of those big names are, right? You know, I know everyone's kind of heard names like Amazon and AT&T, BP Energy, Duke Energy, some other names, folks like Comcast Cable, Verizon, Google. Again, everybody knows who Google is, right? Everybody knows who Amazon is, Microsoft, Facebook, Uber. You know, a lot of these are big name type enterprises that AFL provides product and services for. And so that kind of hopefully maybe brings it a little closer to home when you think about who we are, and the services and who our customers are for the services and products that we provide. When we take it a little bit closer to home, when we talk about who we are internally as AFL, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention a few things about our mission, our vision, and kind of some of our core values. This really, at the end of the day, although we make really awesome products and we provide incredible services, really kind of who we are internally as a business and an operation, I think makes up who we are. And our mission is pretty simple. You know, we are what we do. And that is to connect our customers around the world with incredible innovative technologies and exceptional products and services. I mean, at the end of the day, that is who we are, and that's what we do. And we want to do it, though, in a way where we're able to positively impact our community, and you know, being able to provide those superior solutions, but also being involved, connected to where we're located, being involved and connected to those local communities, and being able to give back to those communities, not just with our dollars, but also with our time. And again, being able to employ and hire folks that live in those areas, as well as participate in charitable type opportunities in those communities. And just a little bit about our core values, innovation, community engagement, like we mentioned, collaboration within our teams. Definitely always want to put that customer first, but do it in a way where we're being, we're not causing harm to our environment, are operating and doing it the right way. So, integrity is of the utmost importance for who we are, not only within our associates, but in the way we conduct our business. Like a lot of other companies, you're probably going to hear folks talk about, well, our people make the difference. But when you think about the concept of taking a village to make a widget, I mean, for us at AFL, it really is our people. We have a great diverse group of employees that work, again, all across the globe, in several different countries, speaking several different languages, coming from incredible different backgrounds. But we talk about that unified team, what that means for the individual themselves, but as a collaborative group of who AFL is. And can't say enough about our people, especially over the last 6 to 8 months during the global pandemic. The way they have stepped, that they have led, the way they have taken advantages of the resources and the capabilities that we have to be able to do their work on site, remote, over Microsoft Teams meetings, in one-on-one meetings 6 feet apart, whatever the case may be, right? Our people have really risen to the bar over the last few months, and couldn't say enough about them and the contribution to who AFL is. But if you think about kind of how those folks got here, right? All of those folks have different backgrounds. We think about the many to joining a company like AFL, and whether it's a company like AFL or others, there's a lot of great companies here in the upstate, and they probably have several similar programs as well. But I just kind of wanted to share a couple different ways in which many folks join AFL and the successful roads and paths that they have. We hire folks straight out of school, straight out of high school, right, with diplomas and GEDs in several different capacities, whether that be on the shop floor or support type roles. We do support the South Carolina Manufacturing Apprentice Program. We have folks that go through that sponsor program through the state, are able to get continuing education and training. We have some really neat programs with a couple of local high schools here in our area, where their senior year of high school, the last semester, that spring semester, they're actually taking what's called an introduction to a manufacturing class, and they're getting to take tours every month of our facilities, and even have a few guest speakers, some of our production managers going on site to talk a little bit about what manufacturing and technical careers look like. So and that program is sponsored through AFL, so they're not paying a dime for that opportunity. And each one of those, if they complete that program, have the opportunity to interview for a full-time job, right? It's a guaranteed interview. All you have to do is take the class, pass the class, and do the work. So that's another way. I think we try to do a lot of work with our vocational schools, those that have decided, hey, I definitely want to go into some type of technical field, whether it be something like welding or machine tool or CNC programming or mechatronics. So we've got some great partnerships that we've established with those vocational schools. Go back for me, not quite yet. Thank you, sorry. We do have the Tech Scholar Program and the Technical School Partnerships, where we're, folks that have decided they want to go to get that associate's degree in those technical areas. We have our college and intern and co-op program with those that are maybe going after 4-year degrees, where you're able to get work experience while you're in school. And then, of course, we do our direct hiring as well, along with tuition reimbursement, career development programs after you get here. So just a little bit about some of the different ways where, that you can join AFL in the different career paths. So kind of to that, we talked about today's topic, right, and taking a village to just make one widget. And so although a lot of the jobs here are manufacturing, engineering, or technically related, there's a lot of other areas within AFL that people may not know that take to support those manufacturing and engineering operations to do our day-to-day. So whether that be accounting and finance, supply chain, procurement, international trade, human resources, sales, IT, EHS, like we talked about it, or admin type roles, every one of those areas, right, is responsible for doing a day-to-day function that helps our manufacturing, our engineering, and our technical areas pull off that global operation. And so I'm really excited today to have three teammates from AFL as a part of a panel. And we're going to kind of talk about some topics that hopefully you will think are important. Not only from an education, but a day-to-day contribution with AFL and some of the challenges they face. I'm really looking forward to kind of some of the exciting feedback they have, and want to introduce those real quickly to everybody. So we have Candace Bauer, part of our IT team. She's our IT operations technology analyst, and we'll let Candace introduce herself in a minute as we're going through some of the questions. We have Katie Ingram, senior project manager as a part of our manufacturing group. And then Andre Soto, international trade coordinator, part of our international trade team. And I'll be on the panel as well, just to kind of help facilitate some questions and maybe chime in periodically, because again, I have a different background than from some of our panelists. So looking forward to the conversation. So we're going to kind of dive right in, and we're going to let our folks chime in and get in on some of this conversation dialogue. And kind of the first topic we thought we'd talk about is let's talk a little bit about kind of that educational journey, right? Whether that be internships, co-ops, early work experience that kind of led you to pick the degree and major that you focused on, or the area of focus that you ended up working professionally. So let's just kind of start from the top. Candace, tell us a little bit about kind of that educational journey that led you to pick the area that you decided to focus on.
Sure. So I started, IT has sort of always been my wheelhouse. It's something that I've always been drawn to and kind of good at. So it felt like a natural progression for me. So I decided to do an IT apprenticeship during my high school years. One, it paid well at the time for a 16-year-old. And it was a good life experience, just to learn, like, hey, is this really something that I want to do? It's something I can do while I'm in high school. And hey, if I get to the end of it, at worst, I didn't like it, but I got paid to do it and I had a good life experience. And at best, it led me into a career. So I did enjoy IT quite a bit, and I decided to go ahead and get my bachelor's. I did a dual bachelor's. So I did a bachelor's of IT and a bachelor's of business. And then because I get bored easily and enjoy learning, from there, after a few years in the workforce, I went ahead and got my master's in IT, focusing in business systems and business analysis and business process management. So that's kind of my journey of education into IT. And I have very specifically avoided pigeonholing myself into a specific IT sub-career. And I've tried to remain a jack of all trades, one, just to keep my attention, and two, I just think it's really interesting when you get to do a little bit of everything in the field and not just get networking or not just get database management. I get to do all of those things on a day-to-day.
Cool. Good. Awesome. Thank you, Candace. Andres, how about you? Tell me a little bit about your journey kind of into the educational programs and then into the workforce area.
Yes, thank you. Well, for me, since high school, I started to be interested in business-related careers, and I was lucky enough to attend some summer programs called Business Week from the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, and that kept growing my interest in business, and that started to shape my my desire for what schools to look into. I was also part of the Greenville Chamber's Youth Leadership Greenville program. So that kind of helped me get exposed to some other careers within business. And so I decided to go to USC and study international business. And so I was able to graduate from there with a degree in international business and accounting. And that really led me to keep looking for jobs in this area. And I was able, right after college, to get an internship here at AFL in the International Trade Department, and that developed into a full-time job.
Awesome. Yeah. Really excited about the way that program works here at AFL and how it gets folks like you on board. Katie, how about you?
Hey everybody, my name is Katie Ingram. I started out very early in life loving to solve problems and understanding how things worked. My mom got me involved at STEM at an early age, or in STEM at an early age, because she was trying to foster my future career in science and engineering. I actually ended up going from that into Auburn University, War Eagle, and have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in polymer and fiber engineering. I also have a master's degree in chemical engineering. Throughout that journey, I actually went through a co-op program that was in the aerospace industry related to polymers. And I had one research internship in Germany. And that also was related to biopolymers. So I feel very fortuitous that my career has been in polymers, because AFL actually makes cables with polymers in them. So that worked out well. I would say that my career path is somewhat typical in the fact that I went and got a degree in engineering and then ended up in a completely different field. So I am a senior project manager here at AFL. I went down the project management path when I first started right out of college, because I worked alongside a startup construction crew that was building a line. And I realized, wow, this is really cool. This is something that I want to do more of. And so ever since then, I have been managing projects. So right outside of that role, I switched to another company and started working on projects that were $2 million or less. Worked at a couple other companies managing high value projects, and I've ended up here at AFL with a portfolio of projects that range anywhere from $4 million to an excess of $20 million in size.
Cool. So, I mean, you can see, you know, just from the different backgrounds, right? So the different paths and the different ways that we're able to get there, whether it be, you know, Andres talked about the high school, getting involved early, you know, through a chamber program. Candace talking about, you know, getting involved with an internship or a role in high school, you know, and Katie talking about getting involved in STEM early. So it's interesting how that has kind of helped shape each one of your specific, I guess, paths. And then to that, you know, some of those early experiences, right? Whether they be internships, whether they be early work experiences, or maybe even some of the classes that you took as it was shaping, you know, the education process. Tell me a little bit about how that has kind of put you in, we'll call it the specific job or the area of focus that you're in. Did it change maybe that path, or did it just kind of confirm some of those initial thoughts that you had in regards to what you want to do? Andres, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think for me, those early experiences in high school and college were very valuable. It helped me choose my major. It helped me realize what I didn't want to do and what I did want to do. And so far, international trade compliance is something that I have really enjoyed. I'm looking forward to continuing my growth in this field. And I know there's still much I have to learn because it's a job where things are constantly changing. And I think that's that part of it is what makes it so enjoyable for me.
Yeah, cool. How about you, Katie?
I would say that actually all of my co-ops and internships helped guide me down my path by letting me know what I didn't want to do. And that's not to say that they were bad experiences. They were incredible experiences. My first co-op, I had the opportunity to work alongside some folks with lean skills. And so I picked up my lean hat, put that on, learned a lot from it, and realized I have an interest in this, but I don't have an interest in the position that I was fulfilling at that point in time. So I would say, it gave me some versatility. I moved on with my research internship, and I would say I realized shortly into my doctorate program in chemistry, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be stuck 24/7 in a lab all day, running experiments all hours of the night. So for me, I would say it definitely was a path of self-exploration. And along the way, it gave me some very useful tool sets. I would say that because I wore a lot of hats throughout my co-op internship program and also the various roles I've had, that's made me a more versatile and more valuable employee.
Cool. Candace, it sounded like you kind of got into IT very early, but has it just kind of confirmed that desire to kind of spread that out as much as you have done so in your career?
Yeah, I got involved really early, but I think I got involved during a time when IT you had to wear all the hats. When I started, there wasn't really as much specialty into you're a database engineer, you're a network engineer, you're this, you're that. It really was like you do all those things. Like you have a problem, you have to solve it. And so I did get to wear all those hats. Similar to Katie, I did learn which hats I didn't particularly like. Not that I wasn't capable, not that they were bad jobs. They just weren't really my cup of tea. And in a pinch, I'll do it. But I'll definitely defer to others who get enjoyment out of it. But it also reinforced my desire to stay as jack of all trades as possible, which is kind of unusual in the tech industry. Most people will go into a specialty, security, networking, or similar. But for me, I think it is an art to be able to switch between roles as needed. And I think in smaller companies in particular, so not so much your Googles or your Facebooks, but folks like AFL or other, in particular manufacturing, I've found industries, there is a lot more opportunity to be versatile and to pick up a hat when you need to pick up a hat and not feel so pigeonholed into you are a network engineer and that's what you get to do. So that's been, I guess, a huge learning curve for me, was to really stand firm in what I wanted to do and stay the course, even though sometimes that's not the easiest option in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Ryan?
I think, ma'am?
Excuse me, Ryan. I wanted to interject. You have an interesting path that got you to where you are. Why don't you tell our listeners about that?
Okay. Well, so I was a psychology major in school, and didn't, had a couple paths. I thought I might go to law school, thought I might go to graduate school, couldn't really decide what to do, and lo and behold, decided, well, maybe I'll just start working for a period of time, and see where that leads me, and started working for a staffing company right out of college. And I'll tell you what it did was it took my fuel, my competitive nature, my high energy, and the opportunity. Once, I'll be honest, the lady that I interviewed with, she said, hey, the harder you work, the more people that you hire, the more money you make. And I was like, sold, I'm in, I'm done. I'm all over it. Now, granted, 22 years later, I have learned that is not all that is involved within staffing and HR, but what it did was it exposed me to get to meet a lot of leaders across a lot of organizations through the staffing world. Like Cam mentioned, I mean, the upstate of South Carolina, if you look over the last 25, 30 years, has absolutely exploded. And I got to meet a lot of great folks, a lot of great leaders, and learned, again, a lot of what true HR leadership is, how we support our leadership, how we support our associates, how we help folks grow, how we develop that talent, and then how we bring new talent in. And like Cam said, in the competitive market that is today, you've got to have a ton of different ways to get folks in the door, or we'll never be able to support, again, we'll never be able to build that village that's going to help AFL be a global leader.
Thank you. Ryan, we actually have had a question that I think this is a perfect place. I know we want to get back to our panelists, but what do you think small, mid-sized manufacturers in South Carolina should be doing to engage high school students in manufacturing?
That's a great question. And, part of what we have done over the last several years, we've been involved in the manufacturing day that you guys help support. We've done, what somehow or some way, what I would say is you need to identify a radius around your facilities, because you can't be all things to everybody in Greenville and Spartanburg County and the surrounding counties, because you're like us. You don't have tons of resources of people sitting around looking for things to do, right? So you have to figure out a way to engage either the local schools or the local community centers, or the things that are really, pick a radius. If it's 10 miles, how many schools are within 10 miles of your facility? Probably a lot, and partner with those schools, do tours, get some of these students in your facilities. If you can do an open house where you can invite the parents of the students to come with them, again, that's like recruiting 101, right? You're getting those folks in the facilities, you're getting the child or the student there as well as the parent. And then if you can engage with a local school and you can set up a workforce type program, schools like Greenville Tech, schools like Spartanburg Community, these technical schools will partner with you and help build curriculum that will allow you to partner with not only the high school, but the tech schools and get these students in there, get them interested, tell them about, again, today's manufacturing is not the manufacturing of the 70s and the 80s. It's clean, it's air conditioned. A lot of it is computer. It's run by computers and by other diagnostic programs, and so you're not picking up 75-pound bales of something all day long. I mean, it is truly a different world where you can make really good money, and you can develop a career where we'll even help send you back to school and get furthering degrees if that's a path that you want to go down. So I think you've got to get engaged. You've got to just walk in the door, call the guidance counselor and say, we want to partner with you. Would you be interested in doing that? And I guarantee you most of them will. And they'll start out small. Maybe it's 5, 10, 15 students in the beginning. But to give you an idea, that program that we run the spring semester, we're upwards of 20 to 25 students per semester now that take that introduction to manufacturing class. I think the first year we had 5 or 6. So it will grow. All right. We'll hop back into another quick question while we have a few minutes. We talked about all of your different support areas and what they do to help make AFL what it is. Maybe we should just tell everybody just real briefly kind of what your specific area does to help us be a global leader in manufacturing. Katie, why don't you go first this time?
Sure, absolutely. So my role as a project manager is to bring in, typically it's bringing in equipment as we expand. And part of us being a global leader in manufacturing is making sure that we have the right equipment with the latest technology investments, also to make sure that ergonomic concerns are considered so that our employees are protected and safe. We also investigate basically any sort of technology out there that would give us cutting edge, so to speak, or leading edge. The other way that we interface with manufacturing to make sure we're a global leader is to pull in input from operators, tech scholars, process engineers, product development engineers. We interface with basically, we have a cross-functional team that conducts this work. We also interface with maintenance to ensure that our machines are reliable, that not only they'll work now when they come in the door, but for the long term. So we have these collaborative style events where we bring in input from anyone from the operator to a maintenance technician to better further AFL in terms of production capabilities and ensuring that we can better meet our customer needs.
Good. Candace, I know you guys do a lot in IT to support our manufacturing operations. Tell everybody a little bit about kind of what you guys do.
Sure. So I think there's the classic IT, which I think we were talking about before we started this call, which was that IT is often the folks that when everything's going well, people don't know why they need us. And when things are going badly, people don't know why they need us because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. But one of the areas that IT, particularly in EFL, has tried to expand into is proactive enhancements and process improvement. So going back to the business and saying, hey, where are you getting stuck? What are your problems? What are your issues? What areas are you struggling in? And there isn't always an IT solution in there. Sometimes it needs to go back to, Katie's team to go, hey, you need a new machine. Like, we don't want to be involved in that. But, sometimes it is like, hey, well, why do we have desktops? Why don't we have tablets roaming around on our shop floors? Sometimes it's IT needs to build an app to solve an issue. Sometimes it's we just need to overhaul everything, throw it out the door and start from scratch. So projects in IT can be very, very small, like, hey, you're on the help desk, you're helping folks get their equipment working, you're helping the shop floor get back online because the computer went down. Or it can be a $500 million project because we're going to throw one system out and we're going to replace it. And you get to do it all before Christmas Day. So it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of fun deadlines, but mostly IT isn't just about break fix anymore. It's really about trying to be proactive and finding solutions that the business doesn't even know that they need. A good example was I was building an app for a group in EH&S Canada, said, hey, we do everything on paper. And I was like, cool, let's change that. there's lots of opportunities within IT. You just kind of have to look for them sometimes and not wait for something to break. And I think that's where IT is really changing. And that's where our group in particular are, I think, doing really well to try and facilitate improvement and progress in the business and be those intangible benefits that you can't always put a financial value on.
That's a good point. Andres, I bet there's some folks that probably don't know a whole lot about what international trade does to support our business. So why don't you tell them a little bit about kind of what your group does?
Yes, I mean, we're very much in the background, helping ensure that our supply chain runs as smoothly as possible with as little interruptions as we can manage. And the role of the International Trade Department really is to inform, to guide, and to audit the companies within AFL in relation to import and export trade compliance. And this enables the different businesses within AFL to operate very effectively and efficiently, and of course, legally within the laws of international trade. So whether that means providing guidance on new regulations and how it impacts the business, whether financially or just our ability to do business in a certain country, or whether, just day to day, making sure that those orders, those international orders are getting out the door by updating all the necessary customs information so nothing gets held up in the ports, and helping get our customers the equipment and the products they need as quickly as possible.
Yeah, if you think about Andres' team, I mean, again, although many folks may not understand what all they do day to day, if you go back to that map, right, across the globe, 120 different countries that we're in, and he's talking about all the import and export rules and regulations, then each one of those countries have different rules and regulations. And so their team, if their team's not, on top of their game in regards to those rules and regulations, I mean, it can shut us down, in a heartbeat in regards to meeting our customers' needs. So, their area kind of goes without saying how important, even though it may be in the background, right? And you talk about creating that widget, you can create that widget all day long, but if you can't ship it, or if you can't sell it, or if you can't send it to our customer wherever they may be across the globe, we're not going to be very successful. So their team does a lot of incredible things there. Cheryl, you tell me, do we have time for another question to the group?
Before we move on to a question, I just wanted to say something. I can actually relate to that in terms of needing international trade support, because in the last project we had come through, I had a piece of equipment that would not have made it through customs without international trade's help. So thank you. And the other piece I wanted to say that I'm really appreciative about with international trade and our supply chain group is the role that they play in securing the integrity of our supply chain. I really appreciate the work that those departments do in ensuring that there's no modern slave labor involved and that human rights aren't being violated. I would say that AFL is the only company that I've ever worked for that has taken a stand against this, and I'm very proud of that.
Cool, thank you, Katie. Cheryl?
Yeah, so we've had another question that in the chat. So this is to Candace and Katie. Is AFL jumping into artificial intelligence / machine learning? Any lessons about interface project management between IT and manufacturing?
Yeah, so I think one of the things specifically to the second part of the question, yes, we're doing some AI machine learning things. I wouldn't say we're super mature in that area. We're kind of learning as we go. We're trialing new things and seeing what is beneficial to us. Often there's a great sales pitch about these things, but the reality of them isn't always as great as people like to think it is. And there's a lot of adapting that needs to be done. But in terms of project management and IT, I think one of the key things specifically for IT is that we've classically been, okay, well, we'll go put a rack in, we'll go put a server, and we'll put a PC in. Great, we're done. Someone else's problem now. That works, I guess, but the problem is often the equipment isn't in the right place to make the manufacturers and the folks on the floor happy. Like, hey, there's a computer at the end of the line. We don't need it at the end of the line. We need it at the beginning of the line, or we need it somewhere else. And so there's been, specifically recently within AFL, a shift to making sure that IT is involved much earlier and that we are a beneficial stakeholder, not only from the perspective of, okay, well, we need a server. well, what are you trying to do? So don't give us the specs, give us what you need, and we'll facilitate speccing it out. And also developing lines that are much more efficient for project management. I know Katie is working on a project for that in particular.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I won't go into all the details of the project, but yes, it does. It does involve some sort of AI, so to speak, in terms of machine learning. But we're very early in the developmental stages of that. I would say that we've had a project going on for a little while that I was put in charge of turning around, and that was because there were some growing pains. As we've been utilizing it. We thought we wanted something, but we didn't realize how complex it was to achieve in terms of the controls that we were trying to put in place. But I will say from those learnings, we've actually gone through a simplification process to get what we needed. And that was through Candace's help and several other folks in IT. And so now we're using much smarter systems to accomplish this, and much simpler systems. We're actually going through a IT simplification process right now that Candace mentioned or alluded to, that's about replacing or upgrading the technology that we have to get us what we need, and basically advance the offerings that we have on the shop floor. So moving from PCs to tablets to point of view. So it makes sense for the operators, and the operators not having to walk back and forth, to print out reports. They can do everything they want from, one station that's right there. So we're going through, I would say, a great transition period, but because as Candace mentioned, IT is a strategic business partner, and they are very invested in manufacturing. So they're offering us the top of the line solutions, and we're glad to have them on board and involved with our manufacturing processes.
So our time is running short, but Ryan, if you're okay with it, I would love to have our group answer kind of a couple of questions at once. That being, what have you learned throughout your career that you wish you had known sooner that would have helped you to be more productive? And then also any particular message that you have to students and parents about manufacturing careers. So if you could just briefly kind of address those two. Andres, we'll start with you.
Yes, I think just taking advantage of all the opportunities that are out there. I think when you're young, you're not always on the lookout for those opportunities. So just taking the time to sit down, maybe with a guidance counselor or a parent or someone that can help you find those opportunities, help you start having an early look at some of those careers and some of those fields that might interest you. And whether that is, like Ryan was mentioning earlier, going into the workforce right after high school, or getting a technical career, or going into college, just knowing the different paths that are available, and that there's not going to be just, one path for everybody. There's going to be a path that works for you, and just being able to find that I think is very important.
Thank you. Candace?
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, you're fine. Candace, go ahead.
Yeah, I think similar. I have a similar suggestion. You really have to look for opportunities, and that applies throughout your career. People aren't going to come with a silver platter of opportunities for you to take. You have to look for them, and that's at the beginning of your career when you're in high school or even middle school. About what do I like? What don't I like? What things should I try? Being willing to go out and try things that maybe you don't know about, right? Or being willing to say, I don't know about manufacturing and I never thought about it, but let me just go and try it. And that applies to any industry. I never thought I would end up in manufacturing. Here I am. There's a lot of fields that you just don't know about until you go looking for them. And then as your career goes along, being willing to look for opportunities. For me personally, all the projects that I'm on, they weren't assigned to me. They didn't know, my boss didn't come and say, hey, these needed doing. They were just holes that I found that needed plugging. And I decided to take the initiative and go and do that. And that's how you grow your career. You grow your knowledge, you grow your experience, you grow your education. and how then you grow, as a proportion, your salary. You just have to be willing to go out and find things that appeal to you, and where you're willing to make a difference, but also be willing to try things that you previously may not have thought about.
Katie?
So I definitely agree with what Andres and Candace said. I had the exact same experience. The other piece of advice that I would offer is have humility. It's hard for me to say this because I think I'm humble now, but still on that path. The reason I say that is I got out of college with 3 degrees, worked alongside operators who had a high school education, and they were some of the smartest people and most well-respected people that I knew. Just because you have a degree or multiple degrees, or post-baccalaureate degrees, does not make you better than them. It does not make you smarter than them. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, was that I had to humble myself, because I'd listen to their ideas and I'd say, yeah, those sound good, but I think my ideas are better. And here I was with 1 month, or well, I guess my co-op experience, 3 months of experience, thinking that I knew the answers and that I had all the right answers. So that was a really tough lesson for me to learn. As I humbled myself, I started to realize when I put more time in on the job, when I have more experiences, when I am more well-rounded, I will be able to offer better solutions or better ideas. And throughout that process, as you're coming into a new job, I would say humble yourself. And listen to the folks around you and what they have to say before you start making decisions and trying to change things.
Yeah, and if I could just maybe piggyback on that and add one thing, I think all 3 of those are excellent recommendations from our folks. I'm proud to say they're on our team and on our panel. But what I would say is, it's okay to be different and to want to do a different career or do different than maybe your friend wants to do, or maybe then your aunt says that you ought to go to school to study. What I would say is take that part-time job, join that social club, play on that sports team, do that internship, involve yourselves in as many things as possible that will give you as much experience and diversification as possible. Because I think if you notice, all 3 of the folks said the experiences helped them understand what they didn't want to do, not necessarily what they wanted to do, right? So if you don't have those experiences, if you just pigeonhole yourself and say, this is all I'm going to focus on, this is the only PlayStation game I'm going to play, I'm not going to leave if you narrow yourselves down and don't give yourself those experiences, and a variety of experiences, you're really going to miss out on all the cool opportunities, whether it be technical, whether it be on the shop floor, whether it be in IT, whether it be in international trade. But whether it be in HR, who knows? You may want to be the next HR rock star. So if you don't take those experiences, you're never going to know all the cool, awesome things are out there. So Cheryl, that's it. I promise I'm done. We'll pass it over to you.
Thank you all. We appreciate your comments and sharing with us about your organization and your roles within that. Finally, we like to end these webinars with a message of hope and optimism. Let me throw this back to Cam Varner. Any final message from your perspective, Cam?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it is important that we highlight the positives and not just the negatives that we see on the news every night. So a few things that I had were our world, our country, and our economy are more prepared for a pandemic than pre. If we had something like this happen again, we're in a better chance to respond. Also, there's been positive changes as it applies to flexibility for employees. So whether that's existing employees now having work from home options that weren't available before, whether it's employers taking and having more flexibility on their hiring requirements and a willingness to train on the job more. I think it's highlighted the need to keep U.S. manufacturing healthy and to keep things here at home. And finally, with the labor market the way it is, employers have been forced to respond by increasing benefits to employees, increasing pay rates. And so those are all good things and positive outcomes of what's been a difficult year for many.
Thank you, Cam. We'd like to thank the attendees for sharing this webinar with us today. Ryan and his team, as well as Cam Varner with Recruiting Solutions, we appreciate you all being with us. The recording will be shared on the Greenville Chamber's website and sent to attendees along with a survey. Please join us for our next Manufacturing Matters webinar on Thursday, October the 22nd at 10 a.m. as we will talk with David Clayton, Executive Director of Clemson University Center for Manufacturing Innovation, speaking on the future of manufacturing. We also want to take a moment to remind everyone, please do your part in helping to stop the spread of COVID and the coronavirus. We want to mask up and use social distancing. Those hands. And then let's all do our part to take care of our neighbors. And thank you so much for being here, and y'all all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.